Good evening and welcome to this week's Loose Links, the only show in Lincolnshire that links Lincolnshire together and the project that is built on kind. Join us as we've got lots to talk about this week. For the third week running, joining me, Nicholas James, is Sam J. Hitwell, Sue Humphrey, and Vicky Pearson. As we've got lots to chat about this week, Wilko's is closing. So that does make us discuss about high street stores, and will they still be here in 5 years' time, or is the whole universe going to turn into the internet? Also, we talk political this week for the first time in a political topic as we talk about immigration in the UK. And we finish on, ladies, do you like to get naked? Would you take clothes off in front of anybody? Find out who would and who really wouldn't. All that on this week's Loose. Good evening, panel! Hi, Sam. It's been so long since we've seen you. How are you doing?
I know.
Sam has stepped in for us again. Thank you very, very much, Sam.
No, it's not that I've got much to do in the evenings.
Sue Humphrey, it's first time this season. I'm Vicky Pearson. Are you pleased to be back?
Oh yes, always pleased to be back.
Are you, Vicky?
Yes, definitely.
Just a little bit. First of all, we start with some sad news before we go into our topics this evening. Sir Michael Parkinson passed away this week. We send our big condolences to his friends and family out there that are going through grief. But we will respect that and leave that there, but we just thought we'd give him a bit of a shout out because obviously he sadly passed away this week. But this week, ladies, we start on the topic of Wilkinson. Wilkinson stores, formerly known as Wilkinson's, have closed numbers of stores for good, and reports have surfaced that they are on the brink of collapse. So what does this mean for the future of the brand? Wetherspoons, Lloyd's, Pharmacy and Boots are just some of the regular high street stores that have confirmed they will be closing their doors for good in the year of 2023, with Wilko's also confirming their plans for closure too. Admit the cost of living stores are struggling to maintain costs, leases along with profits, and bosses have been forced to make the decision to close certain branches across the UK. But things could be about to get worse for Wilko as the balance of the brink of collapse. I couldn't speak then, ladies, but that did get me thinking about the good old high street store and going to have a look in high streets and having a wander down the high street. Do you think the high street someday will be a thing of the past and we will all just end up internet shopping? Speak to you first, Sue.
Sadly, I think there's a real danger of that. Internet shopping is great. It's not as good as going and seeing stuff, though. But we all do it, don't we? You know, we're to blame. We're to blame, really. If we all shop on the internet and don't use the high street, then what can we expect? And I don't think, COVID didn't help because, online shopping went berserk, didn't it, during COVID? And people who hadn't used it before got used to using it, online shopping, internet shopping, and people who already used it just used it even more. So I think it is sort of a self-fulfilling thing.
Do you think we will? To me, I find this really sad Because actually, yes, the internet can sometimes be quicker and more convenient, but going back to the 90s when I was with my grandma, one of my closest memories with my grandparents and my parents was shopping
Yeah.
and browsing and learning how to shop and learning about money and learning
Yeah.
about hard cash in the hand and having that £5 pocket money.
Yeah.
Do you think we're going to lose that for generations to come? Do you think spending money is going to become something quite dangerous because it's so easy to click buy on Amazon without even thinking about it?
Yeah. Yeah.
I do think so. I think it's just going to get worse because like you say, going online it's easier, and you got Amazon that has, if you sign up to Prime, then you get like next day delivery. But the thing is, for me, sometimes it's good to actually go into the store to see, like when I'm buying clothes, I'm a bit iffy about buying them on the internet because I don't know whether they're going to fit, whether they're going to, and when you go in and actually pick up something, you can get an idea of what it's like. So there is that, but I don't think there's going to be, because a lot of what I've noticed is a lot of the shops down Lincoln High Street, the ones that have shut down, they're becoming restaurants and pubs and cafes and bakeries. It's all, we're just gonna have a high street just full of restaurants and pubs eventually. And I have noticed like Monsoon, the shop that was Monsoon is now Wendy's,
Yeah. Oh, I didn't know it was Monsoon to Wendy's. I didn't even know that.
Yeah, it was where Monsoon was, and obviously Monsoon shut down, and now it's opened up as Wendy's. The old
That's in Lincoln, though.
HMV,
That's based Lincoln, isn't it?
yeah, that's on Lincoln High Street. So
Yeah.
it's all. It's like they're trying to feed us up, and the only way when you go in town, the only thing you're going to find is basically empty shops and places to go to eat, and that's it. I mean, when you were talking about back in the 90s, I was a teenager back in the 90s. I was at high school back in the 90s. And I used to go into town. Me and my friends used to meet up in town, and we used to go out and spend our money, because I used to have a babysitting job. So I used to go and buy myself some clothes, buy myself some hair accessories, false nails, or what have you. I got and buy, with my friends. And to be fair, I think that's going to be a thing of the past as well. Just teenagers meeting up. And, those are some of my best memories.
Yeah. Yeah.
Those are some of my best memories, meeting up with my friends in town, having a laugh, having a giggle. And I think that's gonna, I think that's gonna disappear. It's not going to be that much anymore.
What do you think, Vic?
Well, I mean, I think it will change, and I think it always has changed, and everything will evolve and change. And it's the businesses that can evolve and change will stay, and the ones that can't won't. And I think we all, especially, as humans, but British people, we have this kind of hark back to what we loved and our fond memories. And it is hard seeing things go and buildings disappear. And like, I love all the old photos and things, but at the same time, the new generation doesn't really want our history. They want to make their own, and they want to have their stamp on things. And, I mean, I worked for Woolworths when they went. And honestly, it was the saddest thing. We had the best team of people in my little group, and it was probably the best team of people I ever worked with. I mean, it was a minimum wage job in a calf, but they were absolute legends, and that was really sad seeing that go, because it was just a real iconic thing. But it does move on, and things do move on. Like Debenhams and the big department stores. I mean, nobody shops there anymore. No, not really. The numbers go down. People do, older generations do, but newer generations are just not picking up that kind of shopping. So, I mean, in my mind, I think that it'd be amazing if the high street went right back to like homemade, like not just homemade, but like local made, people who are specialists, and that you go to the high street to get quality and to look for something different, and get rid of Primark, I was probably blasphemy to lots of people watching. I really don't like Primark. Get rid of Primark off the high street. Get rid of all those big chains, because yeah, you can get them online. They all look the same. You won't know what it's like. Probably see 5 people walk down the street with that jumper, you know. So it's not that big a thing, is it? So get rid of that, and have nice cafes and stuff if you want, or entertainment, or things that bring people in for different reasons, you know, arcades or whatever. I mean, I'm 38. I'm way too old now to know what Gen Z's doing.
Yeah, but you don't look it, Vicky. You don't look it. But do you know? You've made me think actually, because when we think about it, and I'm going to touch on mental health a little bit here. But when you think about it, we are turning into a society like I've said many times on this show, my 3-year-old nephew knows technology more than I do. Inside out, knows how to work a mobile phone better than I do for anything. But are we really helping society for people that struggle to get outside the house? Because actually, everything you can do online, you can do your food shop online, you can order your medication that comes to your front door, you can get Christmas shopping done online, everything's done online. Are we creating a society that's potentially going to make it worse?
We are, because we've all talked about the social experience of going shopping, you know, meeting up with your mates, meeting up with a girlfriend, you know, going and having lunch in a pub and a drink, and or in a cafe or wherever, and having a, you know, even just a browse around the shops, you know. And that was for people of my generation, that was a great thing to do. And you know, sitting at home clicking, you know, online shopping is not really a healthy way of doing things. And I imagine, I don't know, it will be interesting to see what the statistics are for people who get addicted to shopping.
Yeah.
I knew someone whose wife was addicted to shopping, and she would spend thousands. You know, she spent far more than he ever earned. And you know, a lot of stuff had to be sent back and taken back, and that was in the days when you went out and shopped.
And it's easier, isn't it, to click? It's almost like internet shopping is almost like invisible money.
Yeah.
Because
and it's something you do on your own. You don't do it with your mates.
No, exactly.
I mean, it's just very briefly. I ordered something not so long ago from a well-known, you know, get this 5% cheaper channel that begins with a W, and other brands are available. And when these things came, there were nothing. Honestly, it was a total waste of money. It's an absolute waste of money.
That's the problem. When you see them on screen, you don't know what they're like. When you get them on screen, they look fabulous. They look awesome.
Yeah.
Them just like a flimsy thing, you know, just breathing on it breaks it up into pieces.
Yeah, exactly.
See, though, I find it so useful, because I mean, at the minute my wheelchair's broken. I don't necessarily need a new wheelchair. I need a scooter. I can't afford one. It's going to take a long time. At the minute, I can't actually access hospitals, supermarkets, shops. I can access the shop I can physically walk around, that's very small, but the prices of the food in those shops is unaffordable, you know, because it's a premium. So, you know, I luckily, like today, I've run out of nappies for my son, and I could order some for tomorrow. And I do have Prime because I need that, because I'm, you know, if I'm on my own and I can't send someone into a shop, I actually can't access society. It's completely cut off, you know, and there is no support for people like me. You know, you have to fund your own mobility stuff, you know, and all of that.
But because we're becoming a more individual society, that sort of, you know, the lack of help and support for you, Vicky, is it's great that you can still do what you need to do. Don't get me wrong, I'm not knocking that, but you know, in a better society, in inverted
everything would be accessible.
Shops would be accessible. You would be able to go. There would be people who were saying,
I mean,
need anything.
And that even comes to with the high street. There's a huge percentage of shops that I couldn't get in, and there was only, when you factor in a dietary requirement and a wheelchair need, there was 3 restaurants in Lincoln City Centre that I could go to. That's in a city, you know, and 2 of them have now gone They've gone bust and gone. So, you know, they don't help
you just
themselves. The
can't
high
eat
street hasn't
anywhere.
helped itself.
There, we have done a poll on it because we like to hear from you guys as well. Do you believe in a couple of years there will be no high street shop anymore and it will all be online? 80% of you said no, and 20% of you said yes. And we had quite a few comments on this one as well. So we had a comment from David Blacklocked. More shops closing everywhere, shopping online nowadays. And from our very own Rachel Penny, hi Rachel, if we become a cashless society, then this will force shops to close. I don't like the thought of technology controlling my choices and my spending habits. Which is really, really important. Thanks for your comments. Please comment and we will try and read out as much as we possibly can. We move on to a topic that's been in the news this week, ladies. I can't switch lights on without climbing over clutter. I've not cleaned in 10 years. Sue, I didn't know we were talking about your house.
I'm saying nothing. You haven't seen my house this week.
But a man claimed he hasn't cleaned or tidied his home in 10 years, and it's become so bad that he couldn't even get to the light switches, so he had to use a pole to turn them on and off. Keeping your home tidy is a priority to most. The feeling after conquering a mess with everything in order can be blissful, but for some, keeping tidy isn't a priority, and 65% of Brits claim cleaning the kitchen is the worst job of all. One man hated cleaning and tidying so much that he hasn't done it in over 10 years. 53-year-old Jim from Kent has collected thousands of items over the years and has no intention of tidying up his home. Ladies, do you think we spend far too much time keeping our homes tidy? And is it really important for us to keep our homes tidy, or are we really doing it for other people?
I think there's a difference. When you're cleaning, obviously there's the hygiene part of it as well, because you don't want to attract pests and you don't want bugs and you don't want food poisoning and things like that. We have a rule that in this house that we wash our own stuff, but when we finished it, you wash it up straight away, and you clean up after yourself and everything else. But I can't imagine living in a place that hasn't been cleaned for 10 years. That just blows my mind. I mean, I used to live across the road from someone like that before I moved into this house. The last house I was in, across the road, there was this guy who was a bit of kleptomaniac. And he had literally so much stuff. There was just little walkways to go around everything. And he had all these arcade machines, and he had all these gizmos and gadgets everywhere. And it's like, oh my God, how do you live like this? I never went back in after that. I never went back in. I never went back into his house after that.
Sue, do you enjoy tidying up? Because I know your favourite chore of all is ironing.
I hate ironing. I would walk you through into my kitchen and show you my ironing basket, which at the moment is full. My ironing basket, which I have to say I have had for 51 years.
Have you?
Wow.
Yeah. It was a wedding present. So,
wow. So you got rid of the husband and kept the basket?
Yeah, kept the ironing basket.
That sounds good to me.
Yeah, so it's full. I hate ironing. It just seems like a pointless exercise, really. But I don't like wearing wrinkled clothes, so you've got to iron, haven't you? Cleaning, I would rather be gardening. If I'm honest, but I do it because I don't like living in a mess.
Yeah.
I don't like living in a mess, so you clean. And, I don't like living in a mess. And that's what I was saying about, because I had a house full of family, not last week, the week before. It took me all of last week to find places to put back, because my place is only small, to put back all the stuff that, had migrated to various places. But today was lovely. So instead of whizzing around with the Hoover, I was out in the garden, because that's what I like to do. And the ironing is still there. But I don't like to
trick. There is an ironing trick that I've learned only in the last couple of weeks. Do you have a dryer, Sue?
No.
And the ironing trick, and I'll share it with you all because I agree with Sue, I hate ironing. It's the worst job in the world. But I found after I don't use my dryer often. I'm with society and getting out in the garden and all of that. But if you dry your clothes in the dryer or do them on the line, then put your clothes back in the dryer on an ironing setting with a damp cloth, takes all the creases out of clothes. So I don't iron no more.
Well, that's handy, but I'm not intending getting a dryer.
Just come and use mine, Sue.
Yeah,
I'll have to see about that. I'll have to try that one.
Try it. But Vicky, do you agree? Do you think we just tidy our homes more for other people than actually ourselves?
Now you're asking me this, and I don't do anything necessarily for other people. I'm a very individual person, and people can take me as they find me. So I don't think I would tidy my house for other people. However, I get really hyper stressed with clutter. And I've also have ADHD and create doom piles, and my own doom piles stress me out so much. But I have to have things visible. Like, I like my things around me. I couldn't live in like a lot of my family are quite white walls, white carpet, everything's pristine. I couldn't live like that. Mine, as you can see behind me, my house is a bit quirky. And there's lots of stuff around. And but I need to have things tidy, and the kitchen and the bathroom are my two big ones. I cannot have, and I cannot stand a dirty bathroom or kitchen. I start ranting and getting stroppy, and I might throw things just because I know that my room and the environment isn't how I want it. I am neurodiverse, so obviously that impacts it some as well. But I wouldn't say people would walk in and say I'm like a neat freak. But to my standards, and if I get stressed, but before I got really ill, when I was really stressed, I'd organise tins in the cupboard. And I really liked doing that. It felt very therapeutic, like getting everything out of the cupboards, like wiping it down, bleaching it down, organising it all nicely. And then my head was calmer, So now I kind of do smaller things, like, if I notice stuff. So I'm a little bit OCD with my cleaning, but I'm not like crazy, but I do it for me.
Yeah,
and I've got dogs. So you've got to keep on top of the dogs.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the thing. See, I remember, and I don't know if any of your parents or anybody else there that's like an anti-babies like me that I used to get it all the time. And I am a bit, I don't use, I'm not criticising you, Vicky, but I find using the word OCD, sometimes we've got to be really bloody careful, because actually loads of people say that, don't they? Oh, I'm a bit OCD about my home. Well, actually, it is a real condition out there.
It is, and I do have it, and it's associated with my neurodiversity. So just to clarify,
yeah,
I'm not mocking or
But does that annoy you then, when people say, oh, I'm a bit OCD?
No.
No, that it doesn't. But I do remember like on the odd occasion where I was at home with my mum, and it was I am talking about the very odd occasion where I would say to my mum, a friend's coming round, without my mum already being prepared for it, because she would be like, right, yeah, bring them round, invite them round. But on the odd occasion I would say that, my mum would go, well, you can't bring them round, I've not cleaned the house. The house is an absolute and I used to think, but they're not here to see the house. They're here to see me. But that completely changed when I got my house. Completely changed. But can you remember that saying? Can you ever remember saying that to your children, Sue?
No, because I was pretty on it, really. Well, when they got older, their bedrooms were their bedrooms. So if they wanted to live in a pigsty, providing there wasn't any food rotting, under the bed. I just, and when I got well, why isn't my shirt clean, or why isn't this clean? It would be, well, because you didn't put it in the washing basket. I'm not picking it up off the floor. You're old enough now to be doing that. But it's funny what you were saying about having things to tidy, Vicky. Not so, but it was in the garden rather than in the house, and I'd amassed over like COVID years and since then, so lots of bits and pieces that I was going to do something with. Like 6 pallets I'd got stacked behind my shed, and some terracotta drain pipes, and I was going to do so many projects, and it was really, really bugging me because recently, because of work, as you know, Nick, I haven't had an awful lot of time, although I'm retired. And it was bugging me because I hadn't done anything. So one day I thought, I tell you what, I'm just going to get rid of all this stuff. And I did.
Yeah, and got rid of it all.
And I felt such a relief, because now when I go out there, it's not perfect by any means, but I haven't got 6 pallets stacked up behind the shed that are, gradually rotting away. And so, and I am quite, because I've moved house quite a lot, I tend not to hang on to things. I'm not going to hang on to things because I have a few small things. But I don't hoard things for sentimental reasons.
And I've got to agree with you, Sue Humphrey, because I think you've taken retire out of retirement. because Sue's never stops. She's never ever in. So you have to literally just go round and randomly knock on the door and say, can I come in for a coffee? And she goes, no, I've not cleaned the house.
No, I would say, shall we sit in the garden?
Sit in the garden. Go on, Sam, what was you going to say?
When Sue was on about about moving house and not keeping stuff, and me and my daughter, we've moved house a fair few times, so I don't keep things for sentimental value. But my mum, on the other hand, she keeps everything, and it's like, oh, remember this, and she'll find something in the attic and she go, oh, Samantha, do you remember this when you was like 2 years old?
Yeah.
And I'm like, what? And she's still got it from when I was like 2 years old. It's like a couple of years ago, she brought around this. I had this like little round poof thing which I used to have in my bedroom, and it went up in the attic. And then she says a couple of years ago, "Oh, I got your poof here. Did you want it back?" I went, "What?" I've got it back. It's just over there. And I'm just like, she's had that how many years? I thought she'd got rid of it. But she just hangs on to everything.
You are so right on that as well, because I was saying right at the beginning that to the panel that I seem to have a different background every single week at the moment. I do not live in a mansion. I'm house sitting for my mum at the moment. So I'm sat in my mum's kitchen at the moment doing the show because she's in Greece. But when it comes to children, it's very different. Don't know how my mum's going to react when she gets home, because Katie, my sister, has, as I've said many times in the show, has a little boy and buys toy after toy after toy for him. And then when she's had enough of the toys, she brings them round to mum's house, and they just go my mum's house was like a creche. Walking in every single time, there was not one sanctuary of space that was just for her. Well, I've gone through it all this week. I have gone through every single toy. I have cleared the front room. I have made a sanctuary bedroom for when she gets back. I've thrown 5 bagfuls of toys away. I just put them in the bin because I just thought he's not using these anymore. I've kept like the really sentimental stuff, like his first baby toys and stuff like that. I've kept stuff like that. And I phoned my mum and she's like, oh, I'm dreading coming home. But what I said to my mum is that the spare room is now Freddie's room, but it's also his playroom. And what he's got to understand, mum, is he can bring anything out of that room and play with it, and that's fine. But you have got to teach him tidy up time. You have got to teach him that everything gets put away. And it's just not at the moment. And Yeah, I think it's really important. I think it's really important. But we've got
used
to
to
move
do
on,
that.
ladies, because we're going to talk about really controversial, and I'm really quite worried about talking about it. Going over to our politician, Vicky Pearson, in a second to find out what you have to say about this. But we talk about immigration. Now, we are going to talk about immigration in the UK, but this story has come from New York, which has utterly, utterly shocked me. So in news this week, a reporter in New York City, she did a report last Monday at 4:30 a.m. in the morning outside the Roosevelt Hotel in Manhattan. There was hundreds of migrants sleeping on the outside of the hotel. These people do class themselves as asylum seekers. Arriving in New York a couple of days ago, hoping for a better life, hoping to get into the hotel that has been adapted for migrants as a safe place. But this weekend was at its capacity. I can never say the word.
Capacity.
Yeah, well do. So you found people sleeping on the streets around the building because they had nowhere else to go. I've got quite a lot to say on it, but panel, you go first. What do you think about immigration in the UK? Do you feel we have got this right?
I feel like I shouldn't speak first because it will cloud everybody else's responses.
No,
So if
go
everyone
on.
else would like to go
No,
first.
we're all independent women here.
Go on, Vicky, you lead us.
Well, it's such a huge issue. It's only going to get worse. Due to climate change at the moment, there is going to be a band around the central equator that's going to become unlivable. There's going to be mass migration coming our way. It is going to be over the next 10 to 15 years. So this isn't a problem that's going to go away, and it's not one we can ignore. And we seem to be ignoring both climate change and immigration in the UK because we're not directly on fire at the moment. The issue we have in the UK is they have put so many stops and barriers in the way of legitimate immigration from people and asylum seekers who need that safe passage, that people are forced to take illegal routes that are very dangerous. And in that, we cannot monitor who is coming and going from our country, which is a huge problem because people are getting here. They may not all be picked up, you know. That's a massive problem. We don't know who's coming. We don't know who's here. We need to, shore up our access. We need to work with France better. We need to have a real serious view of how we're going to get people in. You know, what kind of people do we need? You know, what kind of nation do we want to be as a country? What skills are we trying to get in? And there just seems at the minute that our government is just trying to not get de-elected next election as their priority. And no one seems to be taking anything seriously, Labour or the Tories, when it comes to any of these long-term solutions. We have no 15, 20, 30-year UK plan. And until something like that's put in, we're not going to be able to fix it with sticking plasters. So yes, that's my view.
There's also something that Vicky said about people coming from other countries, but there's also going to be like, obviously there's like the war, the Russian-Ukraine war as well, and there's going to be people coming from there as well. So, you know, war kind of causes people to immigrate. I mean, look at what happened with Syria when they got bombed and everybody just kind of left. And they had nowhere to go. And it's the same with people in Ukraine as well. They've got nowhere really to go. And I think, you know, it's a global, it's not just the UK. I think it's a global thing. Everybody, I think, you know, the whole world needs to, you know, figure out what we're going to do about this, because it can't always get down. We can't always just rely. They can't always just rely on other countries to just say, yeah, welcome, come in. They're all taking the illegal routes, which can cause them to lose their lives, especially if they're going across the channel. You know, a lot of people have lost their lives just trying to flee the country. And I do find that really sad as well. I mean, it's not, you know, it's men, women, and children that are dying just trying to find a better life to get away from the war.
I am sick of it. I am sick to death of talking about it. And I am so fed up of people saying, well, there's no great in Britain anymore. We don't run our own bloody country anymore. Everybody's coming over here. Everybody's taking our jobs. I am sick to death of hearing it, because I had a conversation, and I'm not going to say who, but I had a conversation with somebody in the car this week about immigration and about, well, we don't have Great Britain anymore, and all these foreigners are taking our jobs, and this, that, and the other. And I said in the car, again, you are sat in a bubble of privilege saying this. You are sat in a bubble of privilege saying this, and it drives me mad, because when you point it straight back at the person and say to them, so you're telling me that you've got your little family, children, your mum, your nan, everybody, and you live a life, I sound getting right high right, you live a life that you are absolutely terrified every single day of what is going to happen to you and your children. And you are given an opportunity to move away from that, to live a safe and carefree life and to enjoy it. Would you not do it? Would you not jump on a boat and leave wherever you are, scared of your life every single day of your life, and flee somewhere that was safe? I don't agree at all about immigration taking all of our jobs and all of that. The people that are taking the jobs are the jobs that we don't want to do. These people are getting up at 4:30 a.m. in the morning and working in the fields. Summer, winter, all of that. They are picking fruits. They're not in big businesses that sat as CEOs at the top running our country. They've come for a life-changing experience. And why wouldn't any of the, it's almost like Great Britain has become greedy. Can we not share? Isn't there enough for everybody? Is there not enough for everybody?
There is more than enough.
Is God sat up there going, well, you're worthy, but you're not? Do you agree?
100%. And there is a handful of people in the world that have more wealth than everybody else combined. So, I mean, there is always enough. It's just where that resource is travelling. And I think the tide's turning in this country, actually. I do think there's an attitude change. And I think people are starting to cotton on, that the money's funneling up. It's not coming. The immigrants aren't the problem.
No. What do you think, Sue? You sat there in the corner very quiet.
Yeah, it's such a complex issue, isn't it? And I mean, my background as ESOL teacher, so English for speakers of other languages, and I did that for 5-6 years. I loved it. It was the best job I've ever had. And like you said, my adult students were getting up in the morning at 5 o'clock to catch from Lincoln, to catch a bus to go to Spalding or somewhere, the works bus. They do a 8 or 10-hour shift, come home, have something to eat, have a shower, and come out and have a 3-hour English class. That wasn't all of them. I had a lot of students, Muslim students. A lot of the women didn't work, but they wanted to learn to speak English because they were having children and wanted their children to grow up in an English-speaking household or a bilingual household, so they wanted to be able to speak English. I loved it. It was the best job, and they wanted to be there. They wanted to learn. And when I switched programs to employment skills, so teaching long-term unemployed sort of CV stuff and that sort of thing, interview techniques and all that sort of stuff, occasionally I would get I can't get a job because of all these blinking immigrants. And that was the one button that they pressed, and I just couldn't contain myself. I just couldn't contain myself. And I used to say to them, would you get up at 5 o'clock to catch a bus to go to work for an 8-hour shift and then come home and, in a chicken processing factory, or, if we want cheap food, which we do often, if we want cheap food, we pay cheap wages.
Mm-hmm.
So there's that side of it. There's the, do we ever distinguish between economic migrants and asylum seekers? Do we need to? Should we be doing that? I don't know. But it's, as Sam was saying, and Vicky, it's a much wider issue. It's all about distribution of wealth.
Mm-hmm.
Because wars are all about either faith or wealth.
Mm-hmm. And the thing is, as I said, we're all very good at being gods and sitting on these walls and saying, well, actually, they shouldn't be coming into our country and they shouldn't be doing this and they shouldn't be doing that. But nobody actually puts themselves in their position. So puts themselves how they are living and what they've got to put up with. And when you point it straight back at somebody, so I've said it to many people where I've gone, say like a friend's got 3 kids, and I say, so you're fearful of your children surviving to the end of the week. You're telling me you wouldn't jump on a boat? You're saying to me that you would not leave the war and hatred and fear of death and not knowing if your family will survive. You're telling me you would go, no, I want to keep Great Britain as Great Britain, so I'm not jumping on that boat. What a load of rubbish. I just think there's enough for us all and there's enough to share, and it's driving me doolally hearing about it. It really is. Do you think we've become a greedy nation?
Yeah.
Well, I think we've got used to a standard of living.
Yeah.
I think, post-war, things were tough not that I was 1949 I was born, so I was growing up post-war. And there was still rationing and, all that sort of stuff. So it was tough. And then we had sort of the boom, after the war. Lots of building went on because lots had been destroyed during the war. So there was a lot of growth in terms of people working, and and then we had the 70s and the 80s. I mean, I'm not saying it was all perfect in the 70s because it wasn't, but we've got used to a certain standard of living, and if you haven't got the and this may be a real generalization, and I'm happy for the younger people who are listening to shoot me down. But, when you get married, when I got married, we spent our last 25 quid on a fridge, and that we were in a rented place, but it didn't have a fridge. So we bought a fridge. It seems to me today, and I may be completely wrong, but it seems to me today that if you haven't got a fully fitted house with a kitchen and and a this and a that and you consider yourself as not doing very well. You're not. It's like, I want it and I want it now, and that might be quite controversial. I don't mind being controversial, but that, because, and it's partly my generation's fault, because we were very aspirational in terms of material things.
Definitely. And we, as always, the public speak. Do you believe in the UK we are doing enough for immigration? Thank you, every single one of you out there, because 100% of you had said no.
Oh, wow.
We are not doing enough for immigration. So thank you. Thank you. It really does mean a lot. But moving on to a slightly lighter topic, ladies. I think, well done. Clap to you all there. You all dealt with that topic really, really well. I'm quite impressed. Well done. Thank you, politician. You can now sign off, Vicky. Thanks ever so much. Thank you for doing that. This be really interesting because this topic, I've got somebody on panel that is that person to me. So find out who. But I found my second family in Aston Villa's disability team making a big impact for football in inclusivity. That's right, isn't it, the word?
Inclusivity.
Inclusivity. I can't speak tonight, honestly, guys. I've had such a long way. I went to Pride, that's it. I got drunk, my head's gone. A young girl from Aston Villa disability team will help the national lottery players. Evie Young, developed a passion for the beauty of the game by watching Premier League matches with her father while curled up on the sofa. I instantly became an Aston Villa supporter. Someone has to be. Like my dad, and I was really keen to play football myself, recalls the 19-year-old from East Birmingham. But Evie didn't know if she would be able to find a club that would welcome her along to play. This is because she has a learning disability with autism, as well as social anxiety and a curved spine and hypermobility, which brings her joint issues and pain. So when my mum found about the Ability Counts Aston Villa's disability football division, she knew I wanted to go along. I was only 9 at the time, but I was hooked straight away. Now the team is like a second family to me. Thanks to the national lottery players, over 50 million has been raised for women's football over the past 10 years. So we will briefly talk about disability in a minute. But do you think, as well as family we are given, it's important we also have a family we choose?
I do think it's important. Friends are the family that you choose, and I just totally think, I agree with that 100%. I have some friends that I'm really close to. I consider sisters, that we talk about together, and we really have that bond where we can tell each other anything, and we know we're not going to be judged. But sometimes, with family, you have to talk to them. You have to do this, and sometimes you don't get along with certain family members, but you can't just go, no, you're not my family. Well, you could, but it would be hard if you're in contact with other members of the family. But I think with family it's harder to turn around and say, oh no, I hate you now. I think it's hard to do that. But with friends, you choose those people, you choose those people to be with you, because you choose these people, and because they're like you see things in them and they see things in you. And I do believe that if it wasn't for friends, then I would probably have probably had a mental breakdown, and I probably wouldn't even be able to come on here. And my friends have been really detrimental in with my disabilities and my mobility issues and all of that. My friends have been amazing. They've been supportive. Some have kind of drifted away, but others, they've stayed and supported me. And I do appreciate that friends that do stay and support me. And that is what helps me get through it. It's the fact that, I have friends that will be there to support me, and I support them. If you get what I mean.
I don't think it's always. I completely get what you're saying, Sam. I do get that. Sometimes I'm doing my words now because it's quite a difficult subject for me. Sometimes you're not always blessed with the best family. Now, I'm not saying at all that I had an awful childhood and my life has been horrendous. Yes, my life has been horrendous in aspects of my life, But I have come to a point in my life now where I've forgiven a lot more than maybe 10 years ago when I was really, really struggling. And I think I've been able to forgive. And I had my mum, I've talked to my mum about this and I've shared it on the show a couple of times, and she doesn't mind me sharing it now because she's in a better place. But my mum was an alcoholic from 8 to 18. So my life was turmoil. I have this horrendous relationship with my father, absolutely horrendous. We haven't spoken in nearly 10 years. We haven't really, well, that's a bit of a lie. We've seen each other at like family occasions, but we don't have a father-son relationship at all. But I think where I am now, as accepting my family and who they are and stuff like that, is because the people I chose around me have become my safety net and have become some people that I go to on a basis when I need that emotional support that I know that my mum can't offer. And that's not because she's a bad person, it's because we all learn. There's no book in being a parent, but I just wasn't blessed in that lifestyle. Sam, we've lost you if you're there.
Bugger.
I haven't been blessed.
Sorry, my cat did something. I don't know what it's on. Get off, Salem.
And one person that has become that safety net for me is Susan Humphrey. She's become
honorary grandma.
Yeah, honorary grandma, but she has become, and it's really weird how we became so close, because I've known Sue from the church for many moons now, many moons. But when she first joined the church, I didn't really, our paths never passed. But then we had an opportunity, both of us, to go over to Africa and do some charity work. Now, from the church, it was me and her and somebody else that was the leader, but the leader was here now and everywhere in all groups that have come along. So me and Sue sort of hooked up and joined up, and she's become a family member. So do you think it's important in that sort of way as well, that we have, let's go over to you, Vicky, that we have people in our lives that we choose to love, and we know those relationships are going nowhere?
Well, I am no contact with my living family other than 2 or 3. But as an immediate family, big no. And it's been a huge struggle of mine over the years for people don't have a grasp of what it takes for you to make that decision. And so many people say you've only got one mum, you've only got one dad, you've only got one family, and it's like, that makes it worse, right? You do know that makes it worse and harder. Like people just can't get that, But for some of us, it is easier and healthier for us to live a life on our own, so we can be accepted in ourselves, because we were never accepted when we were younger. And I was always in sports teams, and I always had that family unit from a sports team unofficially. It wasn't chosen family because, you leave and they all disperse or whatever. But I have made the last few years a real conscious effort to build an actual proper chosen family. And I have 3 or 4 people who are all no contact with their families, various people with children or various histories of similar to mine. And we have, agreed that we're Christmas and things like that. We're going to possibly go on a big chosen family holiday next year, because everyone travels. My little group are all travellers. They like exploring places. So, and that's been really important to me. And and it is very lonely though, because the whole of society, everything's built up, even government support. Have you asked your family? What are your family doing? And it's triggering, because every day you watch and everything's family, so it is very hard. Yeah, so I mean, for some of us, chosen family is incredibly important, and it is different than a friend, because you need somebody there when you need somebody really there. And families there that in most cases they'll be there for you, whatever. But and you haven't had that. How do you substitute
and also
that?
with chosen friends as well, people that have similar experiences to you as well. And when you have similar experiences with people, And I found this online because I have Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, so I'm in the Ehlers-Danlos syndrome community, and we've formed our own little kind of like little EDS family, because we all know what it's like, just standing up and you dislocate your hip, or you reach down to grab something, you dislocate your shoulder. They understand, but other people go, really? No, you can't do that. It's like, well, you don't know my body. So, you have friends that understand what you're going through and what you've been through. It was like, I understand where Vicky's coming from about family. I don't talk to my dad's side of the family because of the way they treated my dad. I have zero contact with them, and as far as I'm concerned, they're dead to me. I won't have anything to do with them anymore.
And there's a lot of people that say that in there. There is a hell of a lot of people that say that. But Sue, can I just put you on the spot a little bit? Because obviously, I've talked in detail with you about how I've changed over the years and how it's made my life a lot easier, and I've been able to accept, and resilience is built and all of that. But there's many of times, and I think it would be good to see on the screen the other side of the view, that there's many of times where you've said to me, well, you've really opened my eyes. Can you explain how you feel you've changed within our friendship journey and family?
You've made me less narrow-minded, is the best way I can put it. I'm straight, white, was married, not now, 2 kids, family unit, regular person.
Yeah.
Who didn't have any experience of other communities.
Yeah.
Religious, colour, gay, straight, anything. And I'm choosing my words carefully. Not that I was judging anybody, it wasn't. I can remember growing up with because my mum died, my birth mum died when I was very young, and I used to go and stay with my family in the Wirral a lot, who were Northerners, with a Wirral accent. And apart from when they talked about Roman Catholics, and they always used to say, oh yeah, well, he's a Catholic, like it was some weird alien, tribe. It was bizarre. It was absolutely bizarre. And I wasn't in any way judging anyone who was different. I just hadn't had any experience of anyone who was different. And what and I'm in my 70s now. What I love about today's society and the way we're moving, and it's not perfect, but is the greater level of tolerance that there is. Now, I struggle with it. I still struggle with it sometimes. There are some things that I struggle with, and I think, no, I'm not comfortable with that. And it's not I'm judging the other person, it's that I'm not comfortable with it. Does that make any sense?
Yeah.
No, I don't think it's bad or wrong. I'm not comfortable with it. And my daughter-in-law's brother is gay, married to a lovely chap. They're a lovely couple. I can't imagine 2 people who were more suited to each other. And when they were married, they had a service in church that wasn't a wedding, but it was as close as you could get to a wedding. And they invited me, and that I struggled with it for a long time before I said yes, I would go. But I would have kicked myself if I hadn't gone. And it was just so lovely. And so you and they, and people like the person we were talking about earlier, 30 years ago I would have been shock, horror, and it's a scare. It's a fear thing as much as anything. It's a not understanding thing.
Yeah.
It's a not having had experience of thing. You know, it's like going to a foreign country. Really, it can either be exciting and enlightening, or it can be terrifying because you don't understand what's happening. The customs are different, and you know, it's just different.
And one absolute. Unfortunately, we're running out of time for this topic, so we will. No, don't be daft. We will come back. Disability is always coming back, but the one saying that I really want to say out there, that I say to everybody, believe God or believe not God, is that God gives his most strongest challenges to his most strongest soldiers. And I just want everybody to hang on to that. So no matter what you're going through in life, no matter how difficult it possibly is, and Vicky, I know this is a subject very, very close to your heart, so we will bring it back up again sometime soon to discuss it. But slowly moving on, and you've led us quite nicely through into the next topic, because Lincoln was covered in rainbows this weekend as it celebrated inclusivity as Pride hit Lincoln. And have you noticed, I'm not saying gay pride, I'm saying pride hit Lincoln. So during the celebrations of inclusivity with Lincoln Pride this year on Saturday the 19th of August, which already happened, the organisers are cooking up amazing lineups of performers and activities for you to enjoy on the day. So keep checking on a regular basis for updates. Now, before we go on to this subject, I went, and it's bloody amazing. The atmosphere is to die for at Pride. I don't think I've ever been to anything where you soak up the atmosphere as much as Pride does. But do you think it's still important to celebrate Pride?
I think it is.
Oh, Sam, you go first.
So
go on.
I think it is, because, you know, Pride came about because, you know, people, the community, you know, the gay community initially, obviously with the Stonewall, with what happened at Stonewall back in the 60s, that's where it all started, and that's where, you know, they wanted to have more rights. They wanted the right to live, and this is what Pride celebrates. It celebrates that, you know, the community as a whole is moving forward slowly. There are, you know, some, you know, it's not perfect. Like Sue Humphrey said, you know, it's not perfect, but it is moving on slowly. And I mean, I do remember, I think it was like last year before, I saw this article about something that happened in America. These men decided that they were going to have a white men pride parade, and I'm like, hang on a minute, you're white male, so you know, and you're straight white male, and you've not really had much to, you know, much diversity to turn around and say, you know, look at me. Yes, we're looking at you because you look like an absolute idiot, saying that you need a straight pride parade. I was like, no. And I do think the community has earned that, if you understand what I mean. They've earned that. They've earned the right to be able to say, look at us, we need, you know, we need to be accepted. That's all we want. We want to be accepted. That's what it's about.
Exactly.
Yeah, and unfortunately, my dad, who, as you know, was trans, she wasn't accepted by her family, which was very sad. And she lived a life on her own without any family around her. And I, you know, even now I find it very upsetting that she lived like that. And it's just a shame that happens. And, you know, it does happen in the LGBTQ community. It happens all the time. And I just find it sad that people cannot accept people for who they are.
Exactly.
I find it sad.
Vicky, can we go to your thoughts? What's your thought? Do you think it's still important?
It is important. I've actually never been to one. I've never had the opportunity to go. I'm never available. I've never had anyone to go with.
I'm taking you
I've never
next year.
actually
I'm
been to
taking you
one.
next year,
So I
Vicky.
haven't really got a clue. I've had lots of friends share pictures and they all really enjoy going, and that's great. Yeah, it is because I mean, I personally, I think all of us need to come together again. I mean, if there's a movie on, I think it was on Prime, called Pride, and it's an incredible movie, and I think everybody should watch it, like everybody. And it's set in the 80s, and it's around the HIV period, and also the miners' strikes, and a load of people from an LGBT group go over to Wales and they raise money, and they go over to Wales to support the miners, and the miners are all like, "Oh no, we don't want gays in the village." And then, you know, as they work through, some of them actually come out the closet themselves, and like there's this whole like coming together of the community that's beautiful. And then actually it was the miners that got the LGBT rights into Parliament to be discussed, so that it was no longer an illegal activity and men were no longer incarcerated for being gay. And you know, a lot of that came around because of that union between miners and the LGBT community. The problem we have in this country at the minute is we seem to be fighting each other when really we should all come together and say, you know, I mean, if anyone's going to be good, I think this, if anyone's going to be good at bringing people together, it's the gays, isn't it? Let's get the gays involved, get everybody together and show everybody how you love each other. And that's what we kind of need to do, isn't it?
And,
in my opinion.
we are still. Pride is important because I've got somebody in my life right now. I'm quite happy to say it. I've got somebody in my life right now. But I feel that we visited many places together. Like we've been round his town and round my town and stuff like that. But we're always judging when we get to a place if we can hold hands or not. We're still judging and thinking, can we do it? Are we safe to do it here? Is that and that to me still says to me we're still very, very far off from being complete.
Can I say something, Nick? It's really odd as the older person. You know, I still notice when I see two people of the same sex holding hands. I notice, that's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
I notice. Because I've, you know, most of my adult life has been during a time when actually that was absolutely, you know, not the done thing.
No. Yeah.
And it's really difficult for me to try and explain. I mean, I hope you guys don't think I'm judgmental, because I don't think I am. I think I'm accepting. But when you've grown up in that society and those are the norms for you, it's really, it takes an effort. You have to make a conscious effort not to do that, not to judge. You know, I still notice, you know, but it's not, oh, well, they shouldn't be doing that. It's just, oh, there's a couple holding hands, you know, because it's not still, as you were saying, it's not still something you see every day. Well, I don't.
And also, I think two girls holding hands it seems to be more acceptable than two men holding hands.
Yeah, it's bizarre,
you know, people kind of like look a bit, you know, they're kind of like, oh, two men holding hands, you know, and then they see two women holding hands and they're like, you know, and I do find that really jarring. And even though I'm not like, obviously I'm not gay myself, but I just find it really jarring on their behalf, because it's just like, well, you know, it's just another loving couple who wants to show you know, who want to hold hands, who want to show affection towards each other, and want to be proud of their partner who they're with.
Sam, do you know, I completely agree with you, because again, as I always do, do you know how envious I can be of straight people sometimes, because you don't even think about holding your husband's hand. You don't even think about kissing them to say goodbye. You don't even think about judgmental neighbours across the road. And I think what we have to do is really break that barrier. And actually, I do get what you're saying, Sue, because even as in the LGBT community, I will look and go, oh, a gay couple holding hands. But but what I try and do now is a gay couple holding hands. Oh, how lovely!
Oh, lovely!
How
it's
amazing is that to see that they're brave?
And actually, still to a certain extent, how brave is that?
Yeah, how brave!
You know,
how brave!
And that's totally wrong. You know, I know that's wrong. I know that's wrong.
We shouldn't have to be saying that's brave.
No, I know we shouldn't. I agree.
We shouldn't have to say that.
No, my daughter's very good at keeping me on the straight and narrow. she's she'll tell me if I, fall, if I slip below her standards. Yeah.
My daughter does the same as well. She'll be like, Mother, you can't say things here like that, or you can't do things like that. And because my daughter's gay as well, so she'll be like, Mom, if you do that, and she's always trying to, if I do or say something that's wrong, she will correct me.
Yeah. And the fact that I will say something sometimes, which isn't judgmental, but it's just the way I express. She will say to me, the fact that you're using that vocabulary means you haven't moved that far
forward. It's all cool. But talking about falling and slipping, ladies, the last topic is I've been dying to find out your answers on this. I'm really excited to hear your answers on this. But my parents saw my wife sunbathing naked on a security cam. I'm famous. A man says he was left upset after realising his parents had seen his wife sunbathing in the nude in the back garden as they were checking up on the property via the security camera. A man says he and his wife were only too happy to house sit for his parents while jetting off on a 2-week holiday. Believe me, I'm at my mum's house and I've not done it. But
I was just about to ask about that.
His enthusiasm was damaged somewhat after realising they spotted his wife sunbathing nude while checking their CCTV. According to the 28-year-old man, his parents lived in a large house with a swimming pool. Oh, how sad. Private garden and a dog. Oh, poor dog. And so the couple stayed for a nice change of pace from their apartment, but suddenly was disturbed by a hello, I can see you. Which would you take your clothes off for anybody? Are you bothered about being naked? Would you dare to share?
Unless I'm in a relationship, no. I would probably scare people off, to be fair. So no, I wouldn't do it. Not even if you paid me.
What about you, Vicky? Would you dare to share? Are you bothered?
Not probably as bothered as other people, because I used to play a lot of sports. This conversation is going to get really X-rated really quickly. I used to play in a lot of women's sports teams, and we used to change and shower and stuff together, and it was quite normal. And I've been in sports teams since I was about 6, so I've kind of grown up with that, and it's not really been as big an issue. It depends. I'm really more self-conscious about my stomach, so it's usually the area, but it depends who it is. I'm not a nudist, and I wouldn't go to a nudist beast or anything like that, but I wouldn't say I'm as self-conscious as I guess other people appear to be.
Sue, if I came round tomorrow afternoon and said to you,
definitely not.
I'm having, you say to me, let's go and sit in the garden, and I'll say, let's compromise, let's take our clothes off and sit in the garden.
I wouldn't put you through that, Nick.
Nick, you'd probably get a slap. She'd probably slap you to kingdom come for that.
Be X-rated, that, definitely. No, I would never submit anybody to that. Can I just tell you 2 really quick, funny stories?
Yes, go on.
When I was younger, and still married. We went on holiday to France with my brother-in-law and his wife. my brother-in-law and I were loved the sun. My ex and my sister-in-law were both fair-skinned and burned really easily. And I was happy to sunbathe topless because that's where we were. But my husband wasn't happy to sit in the sun. So I was sunbathing topless with my brother-in-law on the beach while my sister-in-law and my husband were in the bar. So that's one. That's one. The other story, it's quite liberating, when you're younger and, you've got a nice figure. And the other one was, I was on holiday, I can't remember where, in France again, probably somewhere, and we stumbled on this beach. I've told you this story, haven't I?
No.
We stumbled on this beach, and it was a nudist beach. And I thought, oh, great, well, I'll, take my top off. I've never been completely naked, but I thought I'll take my top off. My husband, however, still did so, loads of people with no clothes on, and he still did I'm going to wrap my towel round myself while I take my shorts off and get my tongues on. Yeah. So that sort of sums it up.
My mum
exactly compatible.
My mum went to Malta with now my ex-stepdad and my little brother, and everyone around the beach, all the women were walking around topless.
Yeah.
So my mum turns around to my little brother, considering my little brother, he was probably about 9 or 10 at the time, turned around to him and says, would you mind if I went topless and walked around topless? And he went like that, and he didn't, and my mum was like, okay then. So walking around topless, and apparently he didn't dare look at my mum for the whole of the holiday. He was too embarrassed to look at my mum. I mean, he's like 9-10 years old, and he's seen his mum with the
We're celebrating, I pre-warned the panel, celebrating this topic. At the end of the show, we all are going to take our clothes off you this evening.
Bye.
You can all have an introduction. No, but again, as we always like to, we did a poll, surprising poll. Are you comfortable in being naked? 60% of you said no, but 40% of you said yes. Yeah, you're quite comfortable at being naked. Sam, I'm not even going to read yours. If you want to read Sam, it's there. You better say this evening, Sam. I'm not giving you a comment as well. But Maxwell Carter said, me on my own, yes. Around others, not yet. Again, our famous Rachel Penny has commented again. Most definitely, I am comfortable being naked as long as I'm in the bath with a foot of bubbles, with the lights off, and I'm on my own. I just thought that was ace. Thank you, Rachel, for sharing. That brings us to the end of this week's Loose Links. So we did go on a bit longer. I apologise. I did tell you now.
It's been great fun.
Exactly.
We've had fun.
But joining me on the panel, Nicholas James this week, and maybe seeing her next week as well. That's Sam J. Hitwell. The woman that's half the woman that she used to be. That's Vicky Pearson. And also the one that I'm coming round tomorrow and we're getting naked soon. That's Sue Humphrey.
Bye.
See you same time, same place next week. Take care. See you soon. Bye-bye.